Yeah, I'm nervous. But, okay. So I'll just tell you about how I grew up. And ever since I was like about 6, I was really obsessed with the idea of like love and getting married because I adored Hollywood rom-coms. And I was also a little girl being raised in an evangelical conservative Christian home. So I was being constantly fed the narrative that I wasn't worth anything unless someone else was telling me I was worth something and loving me. But the issue was I had really low self-esteem because I was neurodivergent and I didn't know it.
Hell yeah.
And also I grew up in very white spaces, like all white suburbs, all white churches, and for some reason my parents decided to really drive home the misery and homeschool me as well with my brother, so just constant whiteness. And then I never saw myself represented in movies either. If a girl was on the screen that looked like me, she was either a side character or something fucked up was happening to her. So I just grew up like pretty low, and I liked other people, like boys and girls, but I never expected them to like me back until I met someone named Mike Wazowski. And we called him Mike Wazowski because we thought that was hilarious. And I had a crush on him, like a big crush, but he would always tease me and pull my hair and call me names. And so one day I went up to his mom and I was like at church and I was like, yo, your son is a fucking asshole. I did it, of course, because I was homeschooled. And if my dad had heard me, he would have flung me into the sun. So I just very like passive aggressively just like said he was hurting my feelings. But she was like, oh, don't worry about it. That just means he likes you, so it's fine. And so I was like, okay, bet. I'll like get on his level and try to match that energy. And Mikey, he was a really smart kid, so he liked puzzles and strategy games. He loved chess. So I met with my younger brother. I got together with my younger brother, and I was like, I want to make a scavenger hunt for Mikey. So we made one, and then when they came over for dinner, I gave Mikey the instructions, and I was like, I made you a scavenger hunt. It's really awesome. And when you're at the end of it, you'll go through a door, and you'll find a treasure box of goodies. And he was so excited, like look at his face, he was just like so eager to do it. So he finished it super quickly because he was smart. And he goes to open the door and his face is so eager and I'm like watching him like also excited, my heart's beating and my palms are sweaty because earlier that morning I had carefully rigged a jewelry box on top of the ledge of the door so that all went according to God's plan.
Yes.
I pushed it open. I fell down and landed perfectly on his head. So I'm not good at physics or doing anything in general. So, but to my surprise, he pushed it open and it fell perfectly from the sky onto his beautiful little blonde head. And as it hit the crown of his head, it burst open and chess pieces came out of his chest. And and I was so proud of myself, and I was like, I showed him how much I love him. But later that night, my dad let me know what I did was just abuse a boy. It was ungodly of me. So Mikey and I never got together. Obviously, and eventually I achieved the American dream and became an unwed mother. So me and my daughter moved out here to Portland to be with close to my family. And I continue to struggle with having friends and having relationships, and I'm just very unsuccessful. I don't know how many of you are in the dating scene or on Bumble or on Tinder, but it's pretty fucking bleak in Portland. For the last 10 years, it's been the same 30 people. Keep dating each other and just reliving and disappointing each other in new ways every year. Keep doing it. And even though I've come out and I'm pansexual, I'm also lazy and self-destructive, so I still end up dating straight guys a lot. And and they communicate in like the most bizarre ways. A couple months ago, I was with a guy, and I was like falling asleep in his arms, and he says, "I love you so much with all my heart." And I just ignored it and pretended to be asleep. I don't trust anything they say, and I was like, he's probably sick. Doesn't mean it. And sure enough, the next day, he gives me a side hug.
Oh.
He says, "Don't be a stranger."
Oh.
Yeah, they do the weird shit. And they also all love American Psycho.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when I say I don't like it, then they're like, "But it's satire. A woman directed it." And I'm like, "Yeah, women can suck too." But one day I did meet a guy, and he walked in the room, and I hadn't wanted to meet him. I tried so hard to get out of the date, and I like told him all my red flags, which I have a lot. And but he still wanted to meet me, and so he walked through the door, and I just like fell for him instantly because he was just very charismatic and like witty and whatnot. But I didn't expect it to last very long, just because Portland. But a few weeks into our situationship, he tells me about a tradition him and his mom had of driving up to Skye Lodge in Washington, a couple hours north, to pretend like they were guests and go into Skye Lodge and use their hot tub for a couple hours. And that seems like a really elaborate way to take a bath with your mom. Because my standards are low. I was touched. I was delighted he wanted to bring me into this creepy family tradition of conning the wealthy. I was like, yeah, I'm down to go. And so we go to Skye and we have our bath. And then we start walking around the grounds. We walk around the gazebo, and then all of a sudden he turns to me and he takes my hand and he's like, "Why haven't you told me you loved me yet?" And I was like, at the time, because I was a fool, I thought that was sweet. So I was like, "I love you. I don't know why I hadn't said it before." And then he said it back. And then 6 months later, we were in New York City around New Year's Eve, and we were walking across the Brooklyn Bridge, and all of a sudden he stops, and I'm super cold, so I'm furious that he's stopping, and then he starts talking, and he won't stop talking, and I'm getting so angry, and then I notice there's like a cadence to what he's saying, and he's occasionally rhyming. And then I get furious because I think he's freestyle rapping. He's a white dork. He should not be doing that. But then as he got down on one knee, I was like, "Oh, that's what's happening." And I learned later he was quoting a poem that he thought was my favorite. To this day, I don't know what that was. But because, like a liar, I was like, "That's so sweet. Yes, I'll marry you." And yeah. Of course, this was not my happily ever after. There's no way we're here. And 6 months later, 30 days before the wedding ceremony, I realized I needed to end the relationship because it wasn't healthy. And I have a daughter, and I needed to set a good example that it's not love when someone hurts you. And so I ended the relationship even though it was difficult. And I was like, I'm going to hold out. I deserve like the Hollywood rom-com that I've been dreaming of since I was a kid, that I think that I want. And, but as they say, you find love when you're not looking for it. So I try to like stay busy, and I say yes to everything blindly without thinking about it, just because I want to trick life into thinking I don't give a shit. So like Tom Holland or Mike Zendaya, whatever person I end up with, they're so cute. Yeah, so I have a good friend, and a few months months ago, he was like, hey, I have a buddy who's looking to hire a production assistant for a TV show that's filming locally. Do you want to volunteer? I think you'd be great. And so I was like, yeah, of course. And so I agreed to this blindly without asking any questions. And then I get the email a couple weeks later where they give you the call sheet and the details. And I realized that I had volunteered to work on a reality show. And I'm an intellectual. So and then as I kept reading, it just got worse and worse because it was the Bachelorette. Perhaps the worst one. And then I'm just like so pissed at myself. And then I see where it's being filmed. And it's being filmed at Skye Lodge. So I shut my laptop and I'm like, what excuse can I think of? Like, my daughter's sick, like, what can I say? But then I was just like, you know what? I'm always trying to grow as a person. Maybe this is my chance to like step into my power and reclaim that space, perhaps. And so that's what I told myself. Really, I just have a hard time saying no. But so I end up driving up there, and on reality TV show sets, it's like pure chaos because no one knows what they're doing. Everyone's crying and hurting. Oh God! It's very stressful. So I was trying to stay busy, and I kept asking what I could do to help, and they were just like, sit down. We'll have something for you to do at the rose ceremony. But I didn't know what that meant because, again, I'm an intellectual. But I would start getting excited because everyone around me was getting excited. And I'm waiting for the Bachelorette. I can't wait to see her. I assume she's going to be white because I'm in Washington and it's TV. But then when she finally gets to set and she comes through the door, I see that it's a petite, dark-skinned black woman with long black hair. And I'm like, oh, that's why I was hired. And as my heart sunk to my stomach, the producer confirmed my fears. And he was like, okay, Bree, we're ready for you. Go outside to the gazebo. We need you. Her name is Charity. We need you to stand in for Charity so we can make sure the lighting is right. And we need to make sure the mics are on right. So you also have to like say the lines for the rose ceremony. And so I go outside to the gazebo and it's 10 feet away, literally, from where I told my ex-fiance that I lived for the first time.
Damn.
And then they tell me how to do the rose ceremony. They're like, so you just like offer the rose to these guys, and just so for the next 2 hours, I was just standing in front of a row of men. White men hated me. There was maybe 4 black guys. None of them would make eye contact with me.
Oh my God. The disrespect.
Weird. But I had to do that for 2 hours and just be like, do you accept this rose? Over and over.
Oh my days.
And so many thoughts were going through my head. And I thought I was going to lose it and have like an anxiety attack or start crying. I probably will in a couple seconds. So I was like nervous and I was like, I need to keep my shit together. But then I realized I was just fine. And because I was doing something that like child Bree would never have thought that she could have done. Because I was so timid and insecure that I couldn't even stand up to myself when I was being bullied or harmed. And I just spent so many decades of my life thinking I was inferior than other people. But here I was, like, in an industry that tells me every day that I'm not supposed to be here. And I'm in front of a camera on this big TV show. And for the first time in my life, I realized, and then I just started beaming and, like, hamming it up and telling my story. Because I realized for the first time, I'm not a side character. I'm a fucking leading lady.
Fucking name!